We want to welcome you to Miami if you're not from the area. We want to have a good and very informative time this morning. At this point, we want to thank the World Strategic Forum for enabling this moment this morning. We hope that you enjoyed your breakfast, and we are about ready to start. We have really some interesting people that you're going to meet later. For the moment, we want to bring you aware that the World Bank has a program, a very good program, and without further ado, we are going to introduce to you Miss Laura Denise from the World Bank, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about the program.
So we're here today to talk a little about the Doing Business Project, which is a joint project between the IFC and World Bank. We measured the business regulations in 189 economies. By 11 indicators, we measure all the life cycle of a company. So the Doing Business Project provides objective measures of business regulations across 189 economies. The project launched in 2002, looks at domestic, small and medium-sized companies, and measures the regulations applying to them through the life cycle. So today we have a video here that is going to explain a little bit the report's results, and you can also find more information in the website. Today we're going to mainly talk about the registry property indicator, but we have other 10 indicators that look through the life cycle of a company, from the inception to the closing. It's a very interesting database, and we launch the report every year too in October.
The Doing Business report finds that this year it's easier to do business than last year. In 80% of the economies that we cover, out of the 189 economies that we cover, it's easier to do business this year. Entrepreneurs have an easier life this year. In particular, in Sub-Saharan Africa, there was a great improvement. Out of the 230 reforms that we recorded this year, 75 took place in Sub-Saharan Africa. For instance, Senegal improved significantly starting a business, and this has been a continued reform throughout time. Most of the indicators in the Doing Business report are about regulatory efficiency, so how quick and how cheap you can get a transaction completed, starting a business or transferring property, for instance. But this year and the next, we're trying to expand several of the indicators to also measure the quality of those transactions. So we're not just checking if you're doing it fast and cheap, but are you also doing it well? South Asia, actually, it's a region with a lot of new data this year because we expanded the number of cities covered in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, because all of those countries have more than 100 million people each. So with that new data, we can expand the information that we have, and we can compare differences within countries. So there, for instance, we find that the process of getting electricity in Mumbai versus Delhi has been improved substantially in Mumbai and not so much in Delhi. This year's Doing Business report finds that one of the regions where there's less incidence of reform is Middle East and Northern Africa. And that's, I think, in part because of the civil unrest. Although it's a very diverse region, and there are economies where the reform pace is actually quite intense. So in particular, the United Arab Emirates has implemented 3 reforms, and it's one of the top 10 improvers this year. Singapore continues to be the economy where it's easier to do business, but they continue to try to reform, and that's actually a trend we see across the globe. Actually, the OECD members that are high income are on average the economies that do better, but actually over 60% of them implemented at least one reform this year. And in particular, one of the top 10 improvers this year is Ireland, that improved in 3 areas, for instance, in registering property or in the functioning of courts to enforce a commercial dispute.
And at this point, I'd like to introduce Mr. Heinz Ahir from IMF to come up and share a little bit with us about the program, which is called Global Housing Watch.
Global Housing Watch, it's a hub or platform of information on housing market. It has three components. It has a data and information on housing markets. It has assessment of housing markets at the country and cross-country level, and it also has other resources. Next slide. So the way you can, how do you get to the Global Housing Watch page? So you go to imf.org/housing. This is a screenshot of the top of the page. If you could go to the next slide, please. The first component, here is a chart of real house prices for 64 countries. We have almost country from all the region except from Africa, where we only so far we only have on South Africa. If you could go next slide. We also have information on credit growth, price to income, price to rent ratios. Again, forward please. The second component is a assessment of housing markets. So on one end you have data on the housing market, but we also complement that by thorough analysis on the housing market. Each year, all the member countries of the IMF goes through an annual economic health checkup, and the findings from the checkup is published in a report that's available to the public. And very often, this report has a section on the housing market. So here is an example of what you will find in this report. You can see here is the outline for the report for Belgium housing market. This was released in March. You can see it's very good and thorough analysis. So far since January, we have had the housing market covered for 11 countries, and more to come. The third component is other resources. So here, one thing we do is that once you get to the page, you will see about 5 charts. Those charts get updated on a quarterly basis. And then with that, we also release something called the quarterly report. We also have been holding conferences, and we also have other resources from other major institutions that also provide data information on housing markets. We also have a newsletter that's released at the end of each month. This basically gives you a snapshot of what's happening in the housing market around the world. What to look for in the next upcoming months: a quarterly update and the update of the data in June, more country-specific coverage, and newsletter at the end of each month. Thank you.
Thank you, Heinz, for this update. We're going to talk a little about Miami, because some of you are not from Miami, and there is no better person to talk to us about Miami than Ms. Teresa Kinney, and she is CEO of the Miami Association of Realtors, and she's going to tell you a little bit about Miami.
Thank you, Mosa, and thank you for bringing this great program here to the Economic Summit. In Miami, we love to say we have a lifestyle like no other. It's wonderfully quiet in so many of our neighborhoods throughout Miami, or it's terribly exciting, depending on what you choose. When it comes to business, there's no better place to do business, especially international business. And so the Miami-Dade County government has put together a wonderful brief video which highlights so many different segments of why Miami and why it's perfect for business. Business, banking, tourism, everything. But let's talk about business, international business. Thank you.
Mayor of Miami-Dade County, I encourage you to take full advantage of our favorable business climate, our world-class airport and seaport, our diverse multilingual workforce, and our strategic location as a gateway to Latin America and the Caribbean. Miami-Dade County is your link to business and beyond.
So now, talking about Miami-Dade, and for those of you that are visiting for the first or the second time, we would love to offer a tour of what we're going to show you. Gentlemen?
Miami, the Magic City, hotspot of a sophisticated global community, where a multicultural mosaic work, feast, play, and never miss a beat. Swire Properties, international developers with a long and successful history in Miami, continue their unique vision of the downtown Brickell area with the help of world-renowned architectural firm, Arquitectonica, to create a transformational development that reflects 21st century urban living. Brickell City Center, a city within the city, featuring 2 stunning residential towers, the aptly named Reach and Rise. Impeccably designed, spacious living, a collection of exquisite condominiums with views to make your heart race. And a world of features throughout that define modern luxury. Unrivaled residential amenities featuring interiors by renowned design firm Richardson Stategic, with a children's play area, hammam spa, state-of-the-art fitness center, entertainment suite, library, and expansive half-acre amenity deck. All perched above 3 levels of dining, entertainment, and retail therapy. Saks Fifth Avenue, Cinemex, and the playfully chic East Hotel. All just an elevator ride away. Brickell City Center. An urban oasis perfectly placed to experience all the magic of the Magic City. Brickell City Center, your home in the heart of Miami.
And I would love to invite you to take a tour of these two properties. And if you are interested, would you please, Allison, check with Allison, and we'll go from there. Thank you. Now, let's get to the serious heart of the matter. We have the honor of hosting a panel discussion with experts regarding the total wealth and real estate. The wealth of the world, it is reported that, estimated that 70% of it is consisting of real estate. Wow, that is prime time. So real estate is prime time right now. And we have invited distinguished guests from Johns Hopkins University, Dr. Alessandro Rebucci. We are inviting him to come at this point. Dr. Rebucci is a full-time faculty at Johns Hopkins University Career Business School since August 2013, where he's an assistant professor in the research track. He holds a joint appointment with the economics department at JHU Krieger School of Arts and Sciences. He is also a non-resident faculty of the Beijing School of Foreign Studies, School of International Business in China. A research fellow of the Center for Applied Research Economics at the University of Southern California, a fellow of the Euro Area Business Cycle Network, and a member of IMF Advisory Committee on Housing and Housing Finance Issues. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us proudly welcome Dr. Rebucci. Next, we would like to invite to the podium Mr. Mo Vesey. Maurice Vesey has been the 2012 National Association of Realtors president, and he is from the Miami area, so he is more than adequate to tell us what's happening, what's the feel in real estate in terms of, is the real estate total share and share in the total wealth going to increase, decrease? So let him come to the podium and share with us his thoughts. Then next, we will ask to come up here Roberto Munoz, president of BBVA Compass Bank South Florida Market. Roberto Munoz is the 2014-2015 chairman of the Florida International Bankers Association. In May 2011, Roberto Munoz was invited by BBVA Compass to join us in the executive team in South Florida Market. Prior to that, Roberto Munoz was an executive vice president, chief lending officer, professional bank, and so on and so forth. Roberto, I'll let you talk about yourself. He's going to be our moderator this morning. So welcome to Roberto. And the best for last, Dr. Julia Ulka from the World Bank is coming to join us. And Ms. Ulka is a senior economist in the Doing Business Program, Unit Development Economics, Vice Presidency of the World Bank Group. Prior to joining the World Bank Group in 2013, she worked as a lecturer in development economics at the University of Manchester for 9 years, where she directed the development economics and master's policy program and taught international trade and macroeconomic courses to graduate students. So this morning we want to welcome Dr. Ulka. And at this point, I will let Roberto Munoz, our moderator, continue to chat. We hope you enjoy it.
Well, first of all, welcome to Miami. And I have been in Miami since 1956. So I've been here a long time. A lot of things have happened in these years in Miami. I spent 5 years when I was a young boy, from 9 to 15, in Hong Kong. So I grew up in Asia. So I had a chance to understand the Chinese at a young age and their thought processes. Came back to Miami, studied here, graduated, and for the last 35 years I've been in banking, most of it in international banking, including banks like Barclays Capital, Fuji Bank, Japanese bank where I spent 15 years and became chief representative, Israel Discount Bank out of Israel, and then today with BBVA, a Spanish-based organization. I've been here now for 4 years. And my task here was to build an organization, one that had not been here before, but had great roots historically with Spain. And the Spanish have come to understand Miami is a great place to invest, especially as a result of the recession in Europe, which has allowed direct foreign investment to come here in the form of over 400 companies today in Miami from Spain that do business within the United States as a way to diversify their risk and increase their sales as their local economies have not done well and therefore their sales have suffered. Those with money have decided that they don't want to lose their money, and so they've come to the United States through Miami. But why Miami? And it's an interesting discussion. Of course, I mentioned the historical roots that we have here, but interestingly enough about Miami is that we are a center location. We offer bilingual and trilingual communication. We offer, as you heard in the video, probably the best connections of Latin America, of any city in the United States and within the United States. We have great port services. And if you were to measure our economy in South Florida, which is Palm Beach County, down to Dade County, which is Miami, a couple of things are important. Number one, we represent 6 million people. We have a $300+ billion economy, which would rank us the 40th largest economy in the world. We are on par with Chile. Now, Chile has 17 million people producing 300 billion. We have 6 million people producing the same amount. So you can see just by mathematics we're 3 times more efficient, 3 times stronger using that economic matrix. We are also on par with Hong Kong within our geography. Miami-Dade County alone, at $100 billion+ in economic strength, would rank us as the 60th largest economy in the world. So you figure that we're on par with Hungary. You wouldn't believe that when you hear that we have statistics that rank us within the global realm. More importantly about the global realm is that we rank as the 15th largest economy in form of per capita income. Therefore, as we proceed with this panel of great individuals, great minds, experience, capability, knowledge, wisdom, I'll say that here in Miami, we are attracting all types of capital, mental capital. We're attracting physical capital in the form of dollars, and we are attracting our future, which, as you can see by the videos, is here today, now. Our future is now. We are moving today. And so I want to welcome this team of panelists that are here, and I would like to ask a few questions. And Mo, it's a pleasure to meet you. And you know, Mo, when I read his background, Mo is responsible for 1.1 million real estate agents within an organization. I told Mo that if Mo was an army, I would have to run. But not because he would destroy any village at all, or any city. He would outright buy it. So with 1,000,001 real estate agents, you can take over a whole lot of territory, and everybody making money because Mo represents that part of the business cycle. So Mo, I'd like to ask you a question if I could today. And by the way, also be interactive, be part of this panel, understand more, be one with us here on the floor today. But any insight on the most sought after, well, first of all, I'd like to state the question is, the International Monetary Fund estimates that nearly 70% of the world's wealth is invested in real estate. 70% of the world's wealth is invested in real estate. The question is, any insight on the most sought after segment, type, or products?
Typically, the majority of investment in the country is single-family home. Single-family homes are uniquely different. We've got roughly 320+ million people in this country. About 75 million of them own a home. About 45 million have a mortgage on that home. 90% of all the money that's paid to the IRS in this country is paid out of those single-family homes. Those single-family homes account for, each time a home is sold, they account for a half a job. So every 2 homes that are sold in America generates 1 new job. Even in the worst of times in 2008, 2009, the real estate industry was promoting and enhancing the market in job growth. Even in those periods of times, we were pumping out over 2 million jobs. So single family, beyond a shadow of doubt, is the first place you go. Your ability to be able to build equity and then to use that equity to expand your investment criteria in your portfolio is enormous. We have a myriad of other disciplines in real estate, everything from office and industrial to apartment, which is very, very active today. It's a very healthy real estate community.
It's very good. Very, very nice. Dr. Hülya Yurku, I noticed in your background you come from Turkey. And the great city of Istanbul, which is a great city of Constantinople. I like to mention from time to time that we, Miami, are also a city-state equal to the old Constantinople. That we are a crossroads, a trade center, and a global growth area because we have 3 ports and 3 airports within a 50-mile region, creating huge dynamic force. So, and having the history and understanding of the world through your eyes, I'd like to ask you a question if I could. And that is, in your foresight or your understanding, is the share of real estate in total wealth expected to increase very soon?
I don't think that will be a very, abrupt increase, but I'm sure, it will stay stable at this during the next couple of years.
Would you like to expand? Thank you very much for that statement. Would you like to expand? So basically what we're saying is total wealth might not increase 70%, and the discussion is huge. So yes. The question then is...
Yes, Roberto. To paraphrase President Obama, the state of the real estate industry is strong in the United States and globally. Itish earlier showed us some figures from around the world. Indeed, the share of real estate in net worth for U.S. households varies a little bit across generations, right? Households of different age, but is relatively stable and in the neighborhood of what you were mentioning. So as a share of the total, it cannot keep growing forever, and historically has been relatively stable. But to the extent to which the pie is growing, to the extent to which the U.S. economy is growing, and the U.S. economy is doing very well, as I was very pleased to hear the region as well, the size of the market will also keep growing. In particular, when we talk about the share of the real estate, about 60-70%, we are already including both commercial and residential, to the extent to which commercial is owned by businesses, so it's already part of networks. So it's really a sizable slice of the pie. Commercial real estate, when we look at from the lending side, is about 20-30% of the overall market. They're both growing. I don't know whether most of we can put up a couple of charts that. Can I go on for a couple of minutes?
Thank you very much.
You can skip. Then you can go to the next one. So here, the black area is the share of real estate in total net worth for the typical U.S. household by ages, right? For different ages of, and as you can see, is the largest asset category. And by being already the largest, there is so much in terms of share of the pie that it can grow. But as long as the pie grows, the volume of the market will increase. So if you can skip to the next slide. Here we are looking at what's happened around the world around the world, the share of real estate is even larger for two main reasons. The first one is that there are fewer diversification opportunities. So think about China. Households have not many places where to put their saving and their wealth. So the share of real estate is much higher. And in that sense, as China grows and becomes a more diversified economy, it will tend to slow a little bit. But again, the size of the pie will grow too, so it doesn't mean a smaller real estate market. The second reason why in the rest of the world is a little bit smaller is because historically the share of expenditure for housing in total household budget, it is historically larger than in the US. So if real estate is important in the US, it's much more important in the rest of the world. If we can move forward by one. That's what I wanted to show you. So both commercial and residential are buoyant in the United States. They recover very nicely, very healthily after the crisis. And in the context, if we can go to the next slide, in the context of a two-tier evolution in the world economy. So not all economies have enjoyed the same buoyancy. Here you see in the red line those emerging and advanced economies that have recovered after the crisis of 2009, and the darker line in the middle you have the average, the world average, which we update every quarter with the IMF Global Housing Watch. In the lower chart, those economies in which, because of the depth and the width of the crisis, have not recovered yet. So we can move to the next slide. This is the data that Itish talked about earlier. The latest release showed that house pricing are indeed still growing in most countries at the end of 2004. You see all those positive gray bars on the right-hand side of the chart, together with credit, which is what's supporting house purchases or house refinancing. We can go to the next chart. Credit also very positive in real terms, so over and above inflation. However, there is a warning, and here where I would like everybody to pause and think about what's happening in the United States, which is the financial center of the world. We can go to the next chart. This chart plots average house price inflation in advanced and emerging economies. The blue line are advanced economies. You can see the very protracted upswing in the 2000s and then the downturn during the crisis. The red line are emerging markets. This is a new set of data that with a couple of fellow researchers I have assembled over the past few years. Emerging markets tend to have much larger boom and bust cycles than advanced economies, so a little bit more dangerous. They offer more interesting opportunities, but they are risky opportunities. And what we can see here, let me see if I can point you, in the mid-1990s, they kept growing a little bit faster and longer than advanced economies. You can see it on this side. Let me see if I can cut across. Here. So in the mid-1990s, emerging market kept going for a while longer. What's happened in '94, when the Federal Reserve eventually raised interest rate, that they crashed pretty badly, starting in Mexico in December '94, and then in Asia, '96, '97, then Russia and Brazil. So we are at the moment in which the Federal Reserve is about to raise interest rates. Things are going very well, but we have to be mindful that once credit and liquidity condition will tighten, there will be some corrections, and this correction will be larger in emerging markets and in those advanced economies where we've seen the healthiest and the most profitable growth over the past several months and few years. So I would like to close my initial remark with one, leaving you with one thought for reflection of where we are in the cycle.
Very good. That was a very thorough presentation. I saw, you can see that you didn't party last night in Miami, and we're very capable of intricate charting, which is fantastic. As you can see with that statement, that Dr. Alessandro has done great work in that study. Again, going back to the 70% of wealth located, will it continue to grow? What's interesting about that statement, just by its nature, if I may comment for 1 second, is that it doesn't say how individuals invest. So a person from Ukraine who took money out before any controls were put in place might have purchased something in Miami, as an example, as a hedge. Or somebody in Venezuela pulled money out of Venezuela and put money, let's say again, using Miami as a hedge. But the relative number of 70% of their portfolio stay the same. The difference is that it's hard to track in movement cycles, individual activities around the world. But I'm going to use Miami as an example, but how do I know that Miami is under this quote-unquote dynamic environment that we're talking about? And I mentioned to you that I love Miami. I'm from Miami, so this is the place that I love with all my heart. I would state the following is true. Because we see the increase in prices per square foot, we see the numbers of buildings that are going up, and most of it is not through bank financing, but through cash purchases. That we understand that the dynamic related to the price per square foot and a person's ability to purchase might be a little bit out of whack because it's quite expensive for a local person to buy a property. Nonetheless, the 70% probably still holds true in all cases. So it's a fantastic statement on your part. I'd like to ask a question. Is everybody in the audience doing okay? Everybody's engaged? Good, I appreciate that. Are there any, I'd like to ask Mo, are there any organic indicator that would warn of an upcoming bust? An upcoming bust would suggest that there is an asset bubble, and therefore, and we've been through an asset bubble, so that cycle. Is there any organic indicator that will warn of an upcoming bust?
You know, Roberto, we took a hard look at the economics of recessionary cycles in 2012 with the economists that are with the National Association of Realtors. And they tried to liken the recessionary period with the one that occurred in 29. The cycle itself took about 15 years to right itself, give or take some time, but roughly 15 years. If you took a look at the trough of our recessionary cycle around 2008 or 2009, and you added another 12 years or so, indicating maybe there's some rapidity because of the kind of technology that we have and the kind of information cycles that we have, that this cycle should be ready and willing to level out somewhere around the period around 2020 or 2021. That doesn't mean that during that period of time you don't have glitches or adjustments. But if you apply the logic of recession against these kinds of parameters, you're going to see that this probably could last a relatively longer period of time. The other part is that the recession that occurred in 8 and 9 was fueled by irrational thought and irrational investment. Very poor underwriting standards which allowed people to borrow money with almost no identification of income or asset value. The reality is that today, especially in Miami, as you evidenced, Roberto, there is a lot of investment on a cash basis. The reality, frankly, is that most people don't walk away from their cash investments. In roughly 1980s, there was a lot of flight capital out of Latin America. It came to Miami, and it invested in condominiums in Brickell. And we spoke to a lot of those folks and said, well, why are you paying what we thought were enormous prices in the $80,000 and $90,000 range for a one-bedroom on Brickell? And they said, look, I know this. If I get no appreciation at all, I know that my money is safe. Even if I lose 10 or 20%, I know I still have 70 or 75,000 left in that unit. Well, if you bought a unit on Brickell Avenue, by the way, leveraged and not all cash, your return would be very handsome. one other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and that was the pricing in Miami. We've lived here all our lives, so we understand and recognize the advance in pricing, and it's pretty substantial. But if you take somebody who's paying maybe $6 or $7 million for a pied-à-terre that overlooks the Eiffel Tower, and you tell them you can come to Miami and buy a 1,500 or 1,800 square foot apartment on South Beach, on the sand, for what you could buy one of those apartments in Paris, you can probably buy 3 or 4 in Miami. The investment capital around the world sees Miami, unlike those of us that are in that forest and we're right up against a tree, as a tremendous investment long-term with a great upside potential.
Very, very good. Thank you for that statement. I've worked a lot in Latin America, and I've also worked, of course, in Europe. And I had a client recently that our bank, BBVA, took control of a building in Spain, in the most expensive area called Salamanca. And I worked with this client who was looking at apartments, and I happened to introduce him to our project. And two things were important. Because of the recession in Spain, he was able to buy an apartment in our project, a very high quality project, for about 20% lower than what he could find in other areas, because it happened to be that we wanted to get rid of it. He waited a year to purchase this unit, and because we had to finish it. And in waiting that 1 year, the price went up 30%. So he closed on the old price and already reaped the 30%, and he was very happy. What was interesting about that sale wasn't that he was very happy or not very happy, but at that time the exchange rate was 130 euro. And so he took US dollars, several million, bought it at 130, and today it's close to 1. So it kind of balanced out, so he didn't make any money. It's really flat. When you look at foreign investment, has to take into consideration two aspects: foreign currency valuation or devaluation, and the appreciation aspect itself within the country you're in. Those are two important factors that are dynamic to a foreign investor that are not dynamic to a U.S. investor that's investing in dollars and expecting a dollar return. He earns dollars and lives in dollars, versus an international person that lives in a local currency, that is investing in a strong dollar economy and is expecting a return. I would suggest that if he had bought it today, he would definitely have reaped not only the 30%, but this 30%, so he'd be 60%. But life, everything is timing. I would like to ask our next question to Dr. Yulku in reference to the IMF estimates, in reference to the Chinese economy. You know, the Chinese economy, oddly enough, is larger now than the United States. How many of us thought that to be true? Chinese economy is at 17.6 trillion according to the latest information from the IMF, versus the United States at 17.4. It's interesting that today China has the largest economy in the world. We wouldn't have thought that 20 years ago. I would revert by stating the following. It takes 1 billion Chinese to earn 17.6 trillion, and it takes 300 million Americans. So we're still 3 times stronger on a per capita basis.
I think Roberto, you answered it, so
just like that. But I'd like to ask the following.
Productivity that matters. So you took a line out of us.
But the question I have is, considering Doctor, the growth, the China growth miracle. It's still a miracle, and where they came. What is the role of the local real estate market? So considering the China growth miracle, what is the role of local real estate market?
This question is to him.
Yeah, I think we can answer it together. So real estate has been very important post-2009, right? When the US and the rest of the advanced economies ran into trouble, which was very much focused on domestic credit, and then the real estate market sort of became an engine of growth, like it had been in the US in the preceding 5-10 years. And now it's a little bit of an ambivalent relation. They are concerned about a bubbly real estate market, but every time there is a dip in the quarterly rate of growth, they go back and inject some credit. So I think if you look long term, China will become the largest economy in the world, or maybe it's already is, depending on how we measure it. But clearly it will take some time before reaching the US standard of living. And here crucial is not so much which sector generate the growth, but the quality of the business environment. And that's where I think Urko can tell us a little bit about that, because you mentioned it twice. I mean, it's stunning the fact that Miami has the same dollar size of Chile and produce that amount of wealth with a third of the population. And here we have something similar when we compare the US and China. So I think it's very important to think in the quality of the growth.
Let me add some on the business environment, the impact of business environment on the businesses in countries and cities. Obviously, regulatory business environment is very important in promoting the private sector. And property registration and transfer is certainly one of the most important regulatory areas that has a big impact on not only on the property market, but also on the overall economy of the cities and the countries, given that, as you mentioned, property market takes up a big share of the economy. In doing business, we measure the efficiency of property registration and the transfer by collecting data on the monetary and the time cost of registering a property, as well as the number of procedures that the buyers have to go through to complete the registration. Starting from last year, we also started to collect data to measure the quality of the registration. Efficiency is very important, of course, but quality is as important. So to assess the quality of property registration, we started collecting data on, for example, the transparency, coverage of the land registration, and the dispute settlement mechanisms when there are disputes on the piece of land, how fast and how reliable is the system working. But one of the most important factors in promoting the property registration is the digitization and electronization of the property registration. And I would like to just talk a little bit about how the digitization works and how it affects the property market and the registration. Well, when we talk about digitization, we mainly have three parts of the property registration in mind. First is the digitization of the titles, who owns the piece of land. Second is the digitization of the cadastre map, all the land in the country, whether or not it is available online. And the third, and probably in most of the countries is the last stage, is the digitization of the registration, meaning that buyers and sellers are able to proceed with their transfer purely using online system without coming face to face with the government officials. The digitization of titles is very important because it increases the efficiency of the system by allowing the buyers to do due diligence in front of their computers. They can check whether the name on the title is correct, whether the person who is claiming to own the property actually owns the property. The buyer can also check online very easily whether or not there are other financial claims on the land that he wants to buy. So it increases the efficiency tremendously. Digitization of the cadastre map is as important, if not more, because it allows the buyers to pinpoint the exact location of the piece of land, neighboring areas, what's happening in that area, as well as what kind of projects that will be carried out in the area, as well as the exact dimension of the piece of land, increasing information base for the buyer. And the registration, of course, digital registration obviously decreases the time of the actual registration of the property, making it very reliable, very efficient. In addition to increasing the efficiency of the whole registration, digitization also increases the reliability of the whole system by reducing the human errors. It also increases the transparency. This is especially important in developing countries, where corruption is a big problem. When the whole procedure is digitalized, then there is less room for the corruption because everything is out there. Let me just give you some, statistics on how the digitization actually increases efficiency. For example, in Denmark, one of the most developed economies in the world, but it fully digitized its property registration only recently because it takes a long time. By doing that, it decreased the time to register a property from 38 days to 4 days. And it decreased the number of procedures from 6 to 3. So, it's much easier for buyers to register their properties in Denmark. So all of these things, right, since it makes the search cost very cheap, time very short, digitization of the property registration increases the efficiency of the property market. It makes the property market more efficient because there is more information for buyers and sellers, and both of them can have a tremendous amount of information under their finger. And that has an impact not only on the on the procedures, but also on the price of the property. So digitization is very important in terms of the property markets in general.
Now that is fascinating, that whole thought process of efficiency, of mapping, of understanding where a property is in the form of an investor wanting to buy something with speed. Money moves quickly. So for Denmark to say to itself, we'd like that money to stay here because speed is in our favor, the money has a higher chance of staying than it would if it's long and deliberate and process-oriented. I think that's a fascinating thing. And two things that are relevant in this world of real estate is that we're not touching upon mineral rights in this conversation, and we're not talking about air rights, which are, as you know, two areas that are intangible in many cases, but we are talking about real estate and investment related thereof. How are we doing on time, by the way?
I think we are.
We reached our time limit? Well, I can say that we efficiently used our time in this mapping of our activity. I think our panelists did a fantastic job, and I would like to have a round of applause for all of them.
Did we get a chance to ask some of the questions?
Yes, please ask some questions.
You spoke about the pending increase in our interest rate. Is it possible that if interest rate increases and working capital becomes more expensive, there could be a shift from financial assets to non-financial assets, and could that cause an increase in the demand for houses in the future?
Let me quickly respond to that. The real estate markets that I have experienced over 46 years are good markets during stable conditions. But if you want to see real energy in real estate markets, you want to be in those markets when there's a shift, especially in real estate, in interest rates, either up or down. Then the energy really moves. Most of us need a push to do some things. We need to be inspired to move. There's a great deal of folks out there, especially the millennials that are larger than the boomers, who are either living with their parents or doubling or tripling up or haven't made their commitment yet, I think you'll see a great deal of activity once the rates, although I don't think they're going to be enormously increased over the next 12 months, once the rates begin to move upwards.
I totally agree with you.
I'm sorry?
I totally agree with you on those rates not are moving. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other question? Well, I would like to thank you for having me here. I want to acknowledge the Office of the Mayor. We've got Diana here. Diana, just want to thank you. And having said that, I would love to invite you to take a tour to Brickell City Center or to the Ritz-Carlton Miami Beach if you'd like to do so. You can see these two ladies at the end, or Allison here at the end of the table here at the corner, or Allison, and we will schedule it. Let us give one more round of applause to our panelists for sharing with us this morning, and hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.